Hello and welcome to another video. Today we are checking out an ambush sword variant for rotation, which has risen itself up the ranks into some of the top level play, which is reasonably interesting, having a 9.5 out of 10 overall on the game with chart at least, which is usually a reasonable tier list. If I have to use any tier list to go by, usually that's the one I like to pick, but this deck, pretty interesting. If I sound a little different to you guys, I'm running a bit sick, so expect that for the next few videos, but overall, this was a lot of fun, as I do enjoy ambush-style decks, and someone has gone through and refined it fairly well to get a pretty consistent and overall good deck. So we are going to get right into the video and check it out. First up, we are going to be playing against Blood. A little Medusa Blood at that, so that's okay. I'll take some Bloodcraft. They're still doing fairly well in the current meta, so no surprise that we see it. So this deck mostly centers around Leod being the crux of the deck, using him and of course his ambush abilities to really cripple the opponent in big swing turns. Blood being one of the few crafts that actually has pretty decent counterplay. Going for Azazel, of course. So getting a spring down, I think is it a spring or a well, that one? Well of Destiny. Is probably the best thing you can do on turn 2, going into Leod on turn 3. You're really playing this deck. The only issue you have to worry about is your opponent's board, which there are some decent removals for, Ivory Sword Dance being one of them, which fortunately I didn't feel the need to use here. And I was quite happy to risk sacrificing this Leod, since we do have another one in play that's only going to gain a buff next turn anyway. So if I had to lose something, I'd rather lose that. Since Leod's effect, of course, allows him to go ambushed again when, of course, using Veil Reckoning and going for, Assassin, that's it, Assassin. Once you go for that, you can really make some crazy wild plays with him. For example, we actually have lethal next turn. Unless they can somehow block us out, which they can, then we should have it no problem. I did decide to smite there though, even though it was kind of unnecessary. But just to show that in case you did have something that you had to deal with, smite is a really good play. So it wasn't that turn, sorry, it'll be next turn that we've set up for. My mistake. I forgot that we were still only in the one attack phase. Dual Blade Flurry, which we do have in our hand now, is our double attack phase, which will guarantee us lethal this time around. You can see the bit of sickness going to my head. But overall, he is the core card for sure. Next up, we are going to be playing against Runecraft. Runecraft I don't have too much trouble with typically. The only real issue is random removal, since they can remove the Leods, and if you lose potentially 2 Leods, the amount of chance of making a comeback becomes fairly low. They are definitely the core card of the deck and can be countered fairly easily with Ward, so you do have to be a little careful, although this deck does specialize in, of course, of getting ways around that, but there's only so many times you can go around a Ward or over a Ward before it becomes a problem. So get the early Leod, going probably for the turn 3 there with the buff, since we don't really have literally anything else to play. And turf 4 is not going to be too bad. We've got Angelic Smite, we've got Brave Intervention, which actually isn't a half bad card either, and Slash of 1 I've actually found to be quite a good card. But you do have to, of course, have a free spot with the Evo effect if you want to take full advantage of Slash 1. Unfortunately, since Tetra was played, that shouldn't really be an issue for us. So with Tetra, we can actually go for the Slash of 1. I did pay full cost, which might not have been the right move, although we couldn't really do a lot here other than maybe have gone for another attack there, I guess, which would have been fairly good, but small misplay. We would have got the 5 damage in, which, well, that could have definitely helped us a little. lucky for us, we're pretty well set up to take this game in whichever direction we want. With Craving Splendor, we're going to get a insane buff, and the fact that we can then ambush ourselves again and potentially go for Dual Blade Fury for 18 really isn't going to be a problem. And if they go for a ward, we just pretty much hard counter with something like Slash of 1 at least for that turn, and maybe wait till the next. Or get Ivory Sword Dance, which basically at that point was going to guarantee us lethal in a lot of ways, so why not? So this video is definitely on the shorter side, and again, that's mostly because I'm sick and this deck is fairly quick, so I didn't want to stretch it out too much, but going over this deck fairly well. I mean, the Leod's pretty great, does a wonderful job. Dual Blade Fury, again, really good card. They're definitely 2 core cards to winning most games. Mostly Leod, of course, though. Since you aren't really running any other major followers as far as it goes, the only followers you are running are actually mostly being used for support, like this Accelerate 3 effect, and of course both the Accelerate and Fanfare on Jiraiya is actually pretty decent, although I hadn't had a lot of games where I needed to use it, so you could potentially cut him out altogether and replace him with some other card. I'm not really sure what I would want to put in here, but something else that you might be able to take advantage of. And you would actually bring the cost of this deck down significantly. But he definitely is a better card than not, so if you do have him, I definitely recommend running at least 1 copy minimum of him if you've got it. If not, again, you could probably get away with swapping it out just fine. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe. You will find a link in the description below to the deck. Till next time, guys. See ya.